So back to the panniers on my KTM Super Adventure. It looks like the lock has again screwed up, so I can obviously unlock it to open the cases. I was able to adjust the cases so that they close the first time, but unfortunately now the lock, when I try to turn it counterclockwise to open the lock here, it's stuck, and it appears it's very difficult to see here with the video, but you can see the key comes to a point of resistance, and then you can just twist it a bit more. So there's obviously something going on with that tumbler, with the lock mechanism. So it goes past that point of resistance, but it doesn't disengage the lock mechanism. So here's the pannier opened up. You can see inside these tiny little screws here and here, and if you look up underneath, there's probably, I don't know, half a dozen of these screws, probably more than that, maybe a dozen of these screws that have to be removed in order to get the bag off the side of the bike. So I'll spend a bit of time removing these screws, as you can see all over the inside of this case, and I'll pop this off the side, and then I'll show you the tumbler and show you what parts are screwed up on the tumbler. So one of the things I've come up with, because I've had to take these bags apart a few times, is I've got the right size Torx head screwdriver here, and it's just on a 1/4-inch drive. Interestingly, that 1/4-inch drive fits into the extension on this KTM ratchet, so you can see here that that makes quick work of getting these screws off a lot quicker and easier than using the small Allen key that comes with the tool set. Just another little tip. So here you can see the tool I cobbled together. I had to actually add another extension to that bit that I showed you earlier, and that's just so that I can get all the way inside to these screws underneath here. Let's pick one here that's difficult to get to. You can see here that I can get to that screw, and it's quite easy to unscrew it. Saves a lot of swearing and cursing that way. Okay, there's a couple more screws here that I forgot to point out earlier. This screw here, and there's a couple screws down the bottom here. This one here, and this one here. And what that does is it loosens off the side of the case here, so that way you can pry apart here between the aluminum and the plastic bracket as part of the case. So here's all the screws that I've taken off so far to try to get this case off. You can see there's 10 of these large screws, a couple of these smaller ones, and these 3 here were off the side of the case. And this is some sort of reinforcing bracket. So here goes nothing. I think I'll do this live here. So I'm going to try to course this thing to come off here. You can see that it's loose between the mount and the actual case here, and you can see there's like a little indent here. So what you need to do is pull this out, and you can see the case off. Oops, there we go. So here's the internal locking mechanism, or the mounting mechanism for the bike. Sorry, I'm just turning this video for you. And this is the piece here that sits on top of the key tumbler that activates the locking mechanism here underneath. You can see I've had this part before, and I've greased all the parts here, hoping that I can get this to come off a little bit easier. I'll try not to get grease on my phone, but basically what you need to do is just grab this piece here and slide it over, and then you can unlock. And sorry if I can't do this too well. You can this piece here, which lets you remove this from the hook. So this piece will just come right off. So that's it. Okay, so getting to the back side of this case here, you can see obviously where the mount is from where the dirt is. And here's the tumbler mechanism here. This currently is in the open position so that you can leave the cases on the bike and get into the cases without using your key. What I'll do is just put this in the lock position, and you can see what happens with this tumbler at the back. You can see that's the lock position there, and what that does is prevent the case from being unlocked while the cases are still on the bike. Now the next position here is the position in which you can take the cases off the bike, and that's just one more turn, and you can see here that just slides over like that. Oh, there we go, I can set the phone up there. So when you turn the tumbler to the open position, it slides this piece across, and then this piece here you can just open up, and that's how you get the case off the bike. The panniers. You can remove this out. You'll note inside here that there's a small index tab there which lines up with the actual back of the tumbler. You can see that just right there. And if you look carefully inside, there is just a straight slotted screw. So I've removed the screw here, but I put everything back so you can see sort of what this looks like when you pull it apart. So the first part, again, is this little keyed plastic piece of the lock. See, it's keyed there. The next piece inside is this little piece here, and you can see there's the screw inside that I've taken apart. And this is actually two pieces here. So I'll very carefully take this apart. Comes in two pieces like that. And there's the tumbler inside. So here's the lock mechanism. You can see on the bottom there's a flat piece that's rotating there from about 5 o'clock to about 8 o'clock. That little tab is spring loaded, and what you need is a small pick type tool. This is the one I've got here, and what you do is you slide that down inside, and again I'm going to need two hands, so I'm going to have to turn the camera off and get to that later. But what you need to do is just push that little tab in, which I can't do while holding the camera here, and that whole lock assembly will just pop right out. I'll be right back. Okay, so I've just used that tool and I've pushed that little pin back, and you can see the tumbler now will just slide right out, and there's the keyed tumbler, and there's that little piston part that keeps the tumbler from pulling out. So there you go, it's completely disassembled, daily down through that hole. For some of you guys have talked about rekeying your locks. There's little tiny pins there that coincide with the cutout on your key here, and these are the pins that are replaced until they all sit flat in the tumbler like that, with the exception of this little lock here. And once you've got all those set up, it's keyed for your particular bike. So back to that key and tumbler, I've just cleaned it up a little bit. Everything seems to be working fine there. So to reinstall this thing, you set that little key to the bottom. So you turn this down to the bottom like that. It just goes back in here, and it just slides up until you hear a click. There you go, the tumbler is locked in place with that little tab. So just to show you guys that you can get right down to that tumbler with just normal hand tools. I'll put everything back together, put a little bit of Loctite on this tiny little screw here. The screw, which screws into the back of that tumbler. the first time I had to pull this apart, that little screw had worked its way out. There's no lock washer on there, so I'm going to resort to a little bit of red Loctite, and hopefully that'll keep that from ever vibrating out again. Okay, I'm reassembling this lock mechanism, and what I found here is this little ring piece here that you can see. And if you look carefully, there's a very small tab, and again, it's very hard to pick out in this, but you can see right here where my screwdriver is pointing, there's a little tiny plastic tab which appears to coincide with what's right there in that lock mechanism. And I think that's what's happening with my particular cases. That little plastic tab seems to be skipping out of that hole, allowing the key to rotate without actually turning this piece here. And I think that's what's causing the problem. So I've taken the screwdriver, and I've pried that little slot as much as I dare to without trying to break it. But I think that's the culprit right there. I think that little plastic tab by my thumbnail is what is causing the lock mechanism to fail. So I guess if this continues to fail, I'll have to go back to the dealership, just advise them of what I've done to pull it apart and see if I can fix it. And if this continues to fail, I doubt this is a serviceable part, so we'll be talking to KTM about a warranty. Okay, I've got everything put back together now. The case appears to be working fine. To be honest, this is the first time I've tried it, so let's hope it works fine. So again, there's the case installed, all the screws back in, and as I pointed out, you can adjust these cases so that they close without too much drama. You can see I just swung that closed and it locked. So the locking mechanism here, it's locked now. Can't open the locks, and this is the part that always makes me nervous, because you have to turn backwards there, open that, and it worked very smoothly this time. And then you can obviously pull the case off the bike. So close that up, turn it to the unlock position, use case, and again closed. So there's a little repair job. I know my videos aren't very good, but hopefully you can get a bit of information out of this video to help you fix your case.